Yacht Club Games said that Mina the Hollower was a make-or-break game for the studio. That's betting a lot for a brand new IP that got kickstarted back in 2022. And that's only when it was publicly revealed, because you see, Mina the Hollower has actually been in development for 6 years. And after playing it on my Steam Deck and honestly obsessing about it for the past several weeks, I can honestly say that Mina the Hollower is one of the best games of 2026. Let's break it down. When Mina the Hollower was first shown, people tried to categorize it immediately. A Souls-like, a Zelda-like, a Castlevania-inspired game. It seems like it could fit into all of them, but that changes once you actually start playing it. Because what ends up defining how Mina the Hollower plays more than anything else is your weapon choice. The game starts with 3 core weapons, and you can unlock more over time. The whip lets you attack at a distance, which gives you more time to respond to incoming attacks. Of all the starting weapons, the whip does not have any pushback qualities, meaning you stay in place when you hit an enemy. It ends up making the game feel closer to a top-down Castlevania. The hammer lets you charge your attacks for more powerful blows, but while charging, you also gain access to a dodge roll, giving you another option to avoid enemy attacks. This is where the gameplay starts to lean into a more Souls-like structure, where every action requires commitment. And the blades not only let you stab your opponent quickly, but they also force you into much closer range, letting you land more hits than any other starting weapon. It makes the game feel more like a faster-paced Zelda title than anything else. So instead of locking you into one combat style, your approach changes with your weapon. But that's only one part of the equation. During your attack animation, you can hold down the attack button so you face the same direction for your next attack. This is especially useful on narrow platforms, where even a single adjustment can send you falling into a pit. There are also sub-weapons you can pick up, each with a limited number of uses to help deal with enemies. They function similarly to the ones found in Castlevania, encouraging you to use them carefully instead of relying on them outright. You'll usually find them by smashing objects in the environment, most notably candles. Like Souls-likes, you collect bones that you can use to level up your stats or buy a variety of weapons, items, and upgrades. But unlike most games in that genre, you won't immediately lose all your bones when you die. Instead, you lose your spark, which acts as a temporary buffer against that penalty. Once you retrieve it, that protection is restored, preventing you from losing your bones on future deaths. However, the most important mechanic in Mina the Hollower is burrowing. There's a lot to unpack here. Pressing the jump button allows you to cross 1-tile gaps in any direction. Pretty straightforward. But when you hold the button down, Mina burrows into the ground and moves much faster. This lets you slip under obstacles, outrun quick enemies, pick up things like collectibles, and even dodge certain attacks. And that's not all. When she emerges, she can also clear 2-tile gaps, letting her cover even larger distances. This means that this single mechanic can effectively do multiple things at once, depending on how you use it. Where things start to get really interesting, however, is when you combine these movement options with your combat choices in the game. Every single area and screen in Mina the Hollower has been hand-designed to test your understanding of these systems, and it doesn't take long until it gets challenging. Whether it's a new enemy or a set of environmental hazards, the game is constantly asking how well you actually comprehend its gameplay. The bulk of the game is composed of 6 dungeons, with a town and its surrounding environs. You're free to wander into any of these dungeons, though some are certainly easier than others. The newspaper in town gives you a hint about your next destination. As you might have guessed, the town's got a ton of different facilities that includes an item shop, a place to purchase new weapons, and more. Much like Souls-likes and their old-school inspirations, the world is filled with shortcuts and secrets that reward exploration. Practically every time you step into a new screen, something catches your eye. What the heck is that moment? And you immediately find yourself wanting to reach it or figure out what it does. Part of that comes from the game's deliberate Game Boy Color style palette and art direction. The limited detail makes enemies and environments feel harsher, reinforcing its gothic tone, but also introduces ambiguity. Objects aren't always immediately readable, which creates curiosity and pushes you to experiment just to understand what you're looking at. All of these environmental designs factor in the weapon you've chosen. Fortunately, as limiting as the environment can be, it can be just as dangerous for your opponents. Some enemies can't cross large gaps, and in some cases, you can even use large gaps to safely attack from a distance. And the knowledge that the environment can work for you is just as important when dealing with the game's enemies. Not long into your journey, you'll start encountering enemies with large health pools that lumber towards you faster than your default walking speed, forcing you to constantly move, then trade hits, or flying enemies who use parabolic arcs a la Castlevania to trip you up. I hate those things. And then there are the boss encounters, with exacting mechanics that demand near-perfect execution from you. Fortunately, the game saves each time you arrive on a new screen, which helps make things a bit more manageable. And there are also the underlabs that act as rest points. They replenish your health in vials, let you change your weapon or cash out your bones, or give you a spark if you died and lost all your bones, but at the cost of respawning all previously defeated enemies. And when you finally overcome these tough odds, it feels just as satisfying as defeating a boss in a Souls-like, which itself draws influence from older retro difficulty design. It's interesting how that design lineage loops back on itself. Ultimately, I didn't find Mina the Hollower as punishing as Souls-likes. I did die a lot, but a lot of that had to do with learning how to put together all of the core mechanics introduced to me. There's also the matter of figuring out the game's unspoken rules, some of which I've mentioned here, and often masked by its purposeful ambiguity. But there was never a time playing this that I felt the game cheated me. I always felt that I had the tools to proceed. I just needed to get good. The more positive context of the saying. And with the right amount of persistence and adjustments, I'd win. But in the event the game feels too easy or too difficult, it does offer extensive modifiers that let you adjust the difficulty up or down, along with options for speedrunners and players looking to push its systems further. This does, of course, not even touch upon how Mina the Hollower pays tribute to the games that inspired it. Throughout the experience, you'll encounter subtle and sometimes unexpected callbacks to titles like Bloodborne, Castlevania, The Legend of Zelda, and even Super Mario Bros. 2. Its main story is a mix of inspirations, but is firmly rooted in gothic horror. And yet somehow, it finds the right balance of macabre and humor. Mina is part of an organization known as the Hollowers, and she's responsible for the marvel that is the spark generator. This invention brought electricity and technological advancement to Tenebrous Isle. But weird things are also happening here, and all 6 spark generators have suddenly gone offline. So it's up to Mina to investigate what's happening and bring these generators back online. I think the colorful game references, the story, and by extension, the characters you meet, do a lot to pepper in flavor to an otherwise gameplay-heavy game. Yes, ultimately the gameplay is the star in Mina, but the story and references throughout round out the game's identity and help draw you into this foreign land. It's a small part that reinforces why Mina the Hollower is ultimately a more approachable game than its Souls-like inspirations. Its deceptively simple mechanics, straightforward weapon systems, and tight controls ensure that you'll always want to come back to it, even if you've stepped away from a frustrating boss fight. And again, the satisfaction of overcoming the odds, whether it's self-inflicted through modifiers or just playing the game in its default settings, and in a top-down Zelda-style presentation no less, is so rewarding that this game might have raised my expectations for this style of game moving forward. And to think that your initial playthrough could be the first of many, as New Game Plus unlocks over and over and over, remixing and rearranging where encounters and items are found. And you've got a game that just constantly keeps on giving, especially for its ridiculously low price point. So let's revisit categorizing this game again. Souls-like? It can be. Zelda-like? Definitely. Castlevania-inspired? Of course. But in the end, the perfect mix of all of these elements can only be called one thing. Mina the Hollower. thank you for watching my review. I just want to quickly shout out my Discord because we are making Mina the Hollower the Game of the Month Club Game of June, meaning we're going to spend all of June trying to finish and probably replay through Mina the Hollower the entire month. So go join us at dsc.gg/backlog battle, join the community, and join the Game of the Month Club thread. It's a thread, right? It is a thread. And join us as we play through Mina the Hollower on all the platforms that it's available on. Good luck, everybody!